Now, the angels are telling me to remind you, you don't have to just lean into them, you know. You know, when you came to this earth, you did not come alone. Oh my God, they're telling me as well as you guys here. You did not come alone. You have a soul family that's all around you. Lauren and I must be soul family because I had the dream. I was asked to bring something to her that she needed in that moment. Guess what?
Grace, and welcome to the Afterlight Podcast. And my guest today is Hem. She is a spiritual angel connector and intuitive. She supports individuals like you to find their inner brilliance and to create an inner roadmap to deep love and care. She empowers people to understand the reasons we get held back in life. Her motto being that when we love ourselves, we can create relationships, life, career, health that functions at higher levels. Hem is an avid yogini, a Reiki master as well, and she studied spiritual texts since she was 11 years old. She's a kind of guru when it comes to most things spiritual, and she was trained at the College of Psychic Studies London and Arthur Findlay College, kind of Hogwarts for real people. And Hem is joining me today on the show for a second time. We caught up many years ago. We're going to be talking about all things angels because it's one of our favorite shared subjects. We're also going to be talking about how the angels are there to support you, what to do when challenges come, the importance of listening to your intuition, and how to reach out for support. And then we'll just see what else happens because when Hem and I get together, we actually don't really know what's going to go on because the angels sometimes direct things. So, welcome to the show, my sister. Thank you for being here.
Hello, sweetie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited. I love doing these. They're so much fun.
Me too. And we're not going to go back over a lot of the stuff that we talked about in our first episode. So if our listener wants to find out a lot about how Hem's story really kicked off, I encourage you to go back and listen to that because I really want to pick up the conversation about where Hem is now in life and also where I am. And I think that, you know, for you at home, that there'll be a lot of value for you in this show because Hem and I have kind of reconnected after a few years, and it really happened in a really interesting way. So we're going to tell you that story in just a moment. But before we do, Hem, why don't you start off by maybe setting the scene? Maybe you wanted to pull a card for the listener at home, wherever they are in space and in time.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. So I've got the Herbal Astrology Oracle deck by Adriana Ailes,
Beautiful.
published by Hay House with me. I'm going to do one card for us all, just to set the scene and to see maybe what the angels want to bring through today. So they brought through the card Rue. I love this card. It's a beautiful, beautiful card.
Beautiful.
For those of you who can't see, it's got a lion on it. The lion's got flowers all around it, and it's called Rue Protection. It's the number 4, and it's about stabilization, connecting in, being close in your vibration of what is stability for you. Because stability is
Mm.
the 4 corners, right? So it's so long as we've got all those 4 corners in place, but protection's coming in because you're being asked by the angels to roar, bring out your true, strong, almost Leo. You don't have to be a Leo star sign to feel this, but that Leo, everyone has Leo in their chart. Bring out all that energy within you. Now, I do a little bit of astrology as well. So if you're interested, do look in your chart and look where Leo is and see what house it falls in and then see what that house means, because this is what this card is for you today. It's telling you that. There's a few other things. It's linked to the sun because Leo, the lion, the sign is linked to the sun. That is its ruler. Also, we've got a little bit of Pluto here. So there's a little bit of birth, death, and rebirth going on. So there's something in your life that's ending. You need to be protective of yourself while you go through that. Yeah. And then once you do that and you be that high protective energy to yourself, you can grow into the new person that you're about to become, taking on the energy of the lion that can grow new life, a new world, and a new being, because that's what's coming up for you in a very big way. And the herb on this is called Rue, which is RUE, because I couldn't spell. And it's also linked into the infinity symbol, which means there's infinite potential for you. And that also links to any of you who believe in twin flames. It links to that as well. There you go, my
Beautiful.
lovelies.
I love that. That's so good. And I feel like it's really apropos actually for our conversation today. And I was just on a long drive before we connected and I was listening to Wayne Dyer and he's doing this I was listening to one of his lectures and he was talking about the Tao and how he was like studying a lot of the Tao teachings. And I'm paraphrasing here, but one of the things he was talking about is how there's a time to rest. And then when you were talking about the lion, I was like, and a time to roar, and a time to do all of these different things. And I think that sometimes as we're navigating life as souls in our human bodies, that we sometimes want things to already be here. And I feel for myself at the moment that I'm kind of almost like in a winter phase where I've just kind of been almost tying some things up, and I'm taking time to rest and to rejuvenate while I get prepared for the next step. And so I really resonated with that card because I feel that sometimes we're about to get ready to roar, but it's also about honoring where we are at the moment with the self-care, with reaching out to maybe the angelic realm or trusted friends as well to support us.
Yes, absolutely. I love Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is one of my absolute favorites ever. And like he's not with
Yes.
us now, that's a sad thing. But I feel that he left so much joy in this world. It's true, that thing about the rest, it's like a rest and restore. I always say it's rest and restore. And the angels are
Yeah.
always telling me that we are so, it's a human perception, a human perspective to want to do everything now. And we get sort of breathless in this pursuit of our goals and our dreams and our desires. And they do make me laugh, the angels, because they say we kind of have two extremes. You don't have very many people that are in the neutral space, right? And these two extremes are we either really go for it, go for it, go for it, or we just sit on the couch or the sofa and we don't move and we don't do anything. We expect God and the angels to just bring everything to us. But what they say to me is if we find a space of neutrality, so we recognize when it's time to, like Lauren was saying with what Wayne Dyer said about that, knowing when it's time to stop and when it's time to roar. And my boyfriend says, know when it's time to wax your board and know when it's time to serve. And I love that saying because it's like, and it isn't his, he got it from a film somewhere. Maybe Bruce Lee said it or someone. But it's true. If we don't know when to wax or when to serve, then we can't do things in the right way. And also with what Wayne was talking about, the Tao way, if you're in resistance, and the angels are literally saying yes, and they're showing me a rope, most of us pulling it and trying to go the other way. But if you're in resistance, then you have challenges in life. Life becomes challenging. And also, because this has just come to my mind, something myself this morning came up, and it was to remember that all challenges are gifts to us.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds hokey, guys, because I feel it too, right? However, if you've got a challenge, look at it as like a golden opportunity because something is opening up for you in a big way, especially if you accept it rather than resist it. Because the angels are saying if you resist it, then it could mitigate and you may not get the whole of what was being brought to you. So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I know that myself, and this won't surprise you at all, but I like to control things and, especially outcomes and things of that nature. And
No,
I
I don't
noticed
believe
that I noticed though that as I get older, and actually even recently, because it's funny actually. So I remember I was listening to a teaching of Wayne Dyer years ago, and he goes, whenever you feel the need to really control, that's when you're supposed to take a step back and relax. And it's funny how, you know, my innate nature, like my natural nature, is not to do that, is to try to fix things or try to smooth stuff out instead of just allowing things to run its natural course. And, maybe that's part of, the ego coming through and feeling that, no, if I don't sort this out now, things won't go the way they're meant to. When really, we actually have all the time that we need. And what's meant for us isn't going to pass us by. And so when we can take our foot off the gas pedal, take that breath, take a moment and go, it's actually okay for this situation to unfold naturally. Like you're talking about, that's when the magic is actually going to occur because we're not interfering. I hear the word interfering, getting in the way all the time.
I loved it when
Trust,
you
isn't
said
it?
not let things pass us by. Pardon, darling?
Yes, it's like trusting that it will all work out.
Yes. So we think that everything's going to pass us by, just like Lauren said, right? And then there's this trust element. And most of us are absolutely absolutely useless at that trust element, because we think,
Yeah,
my internet's not that good.
that's okay.
Yeah, we think that it's all going to go if we don't do it in the timeline that we've decided in our minds. So our minds tend to be a little bit obnoxious in a way, because they can be sort of overzealous in trying to push us towards these desires that we think we need to do right this moment. But the angels are always saying to me that everything, everything that you're meant to do is already in place. You can't actually skip the lessons. Well, you can if you ignore them and sit on the sofa like we were talking about earlier on the couch. Yes, you can easily. And the Tao way is, it's saying go with the flow, but we've been trained to do the reverse. So it's not your fault, and it's never
Yeah.
your fault. And I want you to take that. So a really big message that they want to bring to you, actually. They're saying, remember, this is not your fault. And where Lauren was talking about control, look, I get it. I was like it too. And for those
Mhm.
of you who really like resonate with that, ask yourself, what did I go through when I was younger? What am I protecting? What are the protection mechanisms that are coming up in me? Because control is actually, and I was a big one for it. It was such a learning curve. And believe me, I still sometimes fall into it, but very rarely these days.
Yeah.
However, that control thing is a need to have everything in order. And it's also, sorry guys, but this is the truth. And this is from the angels. They're literally saying it right now. They're saying it's to attempt to stop yourself feeling pain. That's what control actually is. And
Right.
it's also a way of sort of ensuring that you don't go through too much change, because we think we're not resilient when we actually naturally are resilient. Humans are very resilient. If you look at children, I used to be a primary school teacher many, many moons ago, and children, their own change, parents were like, oh, I don't know if they can cope. Schools are always like, we don't know if they can cope. Everyone's saying, we don't know if children can cope. They can cope much better than we can, because their resilience muscle is stronger at that age, at that youth, because we haven't
Mhm.
messed with it yet. The adults haven't messed with it yet, right?
Yeah.
So what happens then as you get older is, because you've then been trained out of this, you do look to control, and that's fine. It's okay to have a little bit of that. But what the angels say, if you let them in, well, you know where Lauren said trust, if you let them in, look, start with a glimmer. It's fine to start small. No one's asking you to be fully surrendering to the angels and the universe without having to take too much, too much time for yourself to recognize if it's going to assist you. But open up a little bit, and then just a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and give up control in one thing, then another thing, then another thing. And you'll get bigger as you go, and you'll feel better.
Yes.
And you'll also realize you're more supported than you thought.
Yes. You know what's coming to mind for me is it's almost that phrase like I don't mind what happens. And I feel that I'm at that stage right now
Oh,
in my
yeah.
life where normally I'm very ambitious and I know exactly what I want to do. And, you know, even when you and I hung out like last month, and I was like, I was talking about my ideas, and then I was 25 steps ahead of where I actually was. You know, I was going, okay, and then blah, 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 and you're, you're just going, sister, just quiet, just be. And actually I do feel, and I can say this with complete honesty, that I'm actually okay right now with whatever happens. And I feel that in a way, maybe that's a phase that I'm going through. Maybe our listener at home can relax and relate to that, because it's like it's going to work itself out. And I find that sometimes, especially, as somebody who I love about manifestation and being clear on stuff, well, if we're not that clear, that's not a negative thing. That just means that we're open to inspiration and what will happen, and that we can be guided, and very often we think we're doing all the work, and we think we're doing, but we're actually being done. And so when we have these moments of relaxing or surrendering or challenges that come, and we can sit back and go, I'm not going to get so invested and worked up about this. I'm just going to be objective and just allow it to unravel or flow the way it's meant to. Then that's when the angels can also step in and assist us, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Whatever happens, happens. And what was it? It's going to get done. You said some really good things there. I really, really love that.
Mm.
It's, I think the issue more often than not is that we and it's because it's no one's fault, and the angels will always assist you, because whatever is meant to happen will be done. And we how the only way I can put it is that you've come to this world, you've all been born here, you were little, you were pretty defenseless, right? And we have a society, and the angels are laughing because they go, yes, your society's crazy. They've been constantly telling me this recently, like, that place is, we're not coming there, we don't want to come there. Basically, we're very
Yeah.
brave. So that's the first thing you want to remember. You're a brave soul. Okay, you're a brave soul because you came here to this earth. And the
Yes.
thing is, as the angels tell me, it doesn't need to happen anyway. You see, this is the thing, we're so hell-bent on wanting to achieve, because we've been given, right, it starts at school, and this is why it's not your fault. Okay, it starts at school. You are trained and trained and trained to be going for things. How good are you at numeracy or maths? How good are you at literature? How good are you at
Yeah.
this? Are you historical? Do you good at this? Do you like this? Da, 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 da. Are you getting it right? Yes, no answers. Are you getting it correct? No, that's wrong. There is no wrong. Angels are laughing because they're going, yes, there will be, obviously 2 + 2 is 4. However, but with
Yeah.
most things are an opinion. Even history written down has been, the angels are, this is their example. They're showing me a big history book, and it's got his and then story next to it. And they're saying it's a story. Literally, it is a story, because someone else recounted it to you and gave you it. What does that mean? It's not your perception, which means it may be inaccurate anyway. Think of many years ago, I went to New Zealand, and I went to a place called Hooker Falls. And when we got to Hooker Falls, I took it in, and I had this beautiful experience. And my ex at the time was also there with me. And when we came back, we were talking about it. His version of Hooker Falls and his experiences and my versions were completely different. And
Yes.
this is what happens. Life does this. And what the angels are saying is, it'd be good for you to remember this. Remember this. And also remember, this is all just a story, and you're starring in a movie of your life. You,
Yes.
whoever you are today, so me, Hem, lives, great. If you don't, it's fine. You can still say Hem is Hem in this life. This is who I am, right? It doesn't matter. You don't have to believe in that. But I'm
Yeah.
playing this star in this movie. Lauren's playing Lauren Grace, and she sounds like a film star, right? And so she's actually
Yes.
got the film star name. So we're all stars, but we're the protagonists, with the top person in our film. Think about it that way, in our movie, right? Now, if you realize that, then you can't do anything wrong in that movie, because you've been given your cast, you've been given your director, you've got your publicist, you've got your soundboarder, you've got your sound engineers. They're all there. They're all playing their roles. Trust the process, that you actually have a spiritual team, the angels are saying,
Yes.
that work with you. So guess what? Everything does work out. And there's another thing. In a year, say you're worrying about something today, right now, in this moment, something's really worrying you. Son's going off to college, that's scary. The neighbors are doing X, that's a worry. Something's happening with your elderly parents, that's a worry. Your sister's driving you nuts, that's a worry. Will you be worried about it in 12 months' time? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it's not worth allowing your body, your structure, and your center to get whacked out of its real stabilized space. And this is back to that card Rue, right? Which is your stability.
Yes.
Because if you do, you open yourself up to sickness, mental issues, these kind of things that you just don't want.
Yes, that's so well said. I love that so much. And it's so, I just love talking to you, especially because you've like tap into, the angels all the time. It's kind of like when you're taught, when your friends are psychic and you can just like have a chat and then you go, oh yeah, I got that. Okay. And you just deliver all these. It's like a whole party has come to the conversation, a whole bunch of people. One of the things that I've rediscovered the book, The Light Shall Set You Free. Do you know that book? The Light Shall Set You Free?
No,
It's
no, who's
absolutely
that by?
amazing. Oh man, I don't have the authors written right here, but anyway, one of the parts that I'm at is all about the ego. And one of the lines in it is that, so they talk about how basically our whole almost mission here, I'm paraphrasing, on earth is to connect with our higher self. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts where we set out where I believe we like put out these intentions to our higher self, and then our higher self is like, girl, that sounds good to me. Let me sprinkle these golden nuggets for you to follow. And then I'm like, la la la. And then something shiny like goes by and I go, ooh, and I head over there. And then all of a sudden I start feeling anxiety and I start feeling off. And it's because I lost the trail, right? And my higher self is like at the end going, girl, like I'm over here. Look, there's a golden nugget here. Just do something that's going to make you feel a little bit better and find your way back into the path of where we were actually headed. And anyway, that being said, one of the things that they talk about in this book is they say that the ego shields the soul from the higher self. And when I read that, I was like, whoa. And I'm going to do this in a later podcast because I want to read excerpts from the book because it is so powerful. But one of the things it was talking a lot about is how the ego brings in fear and feelings of unease and worry and anxiety and all of these emotions that come with fear or come with ego are essentially wrapped up in the concept of fear. And how when we are reacting to a situation and we feel that way, that's an indication that there's ego at play and we're being tricked into a lower vibration or looking at things at a lower level. Because in fact, when we are connecting with the higher realm, with the higher self, with our guides, what actually is transpiring is we are receiving messages of empowerment and love and opportunity and grace. And even if the situations, let's say, are going to be challenging, they're not met with fear and worry and like almost like ugliness, they're met with opportunity and resiliency. And I just think there's so much power in that whole idea of how the ego is the shields the soul from the higher self. And I think that a big part about us being on the spiritual path here is to start to notice when our ego is stopping us from, moving forward and keeping us small and keeping us afraid and wanting to control things and wanting everything to be right now, as opposed to trusting the divine.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. Let's reframe it a little bit. Firstly, though, I want everyone to remember the ego is your friend. It's a very weird saying, but I'm going to give it to you because the angels have been telling me this for a long time, and I befriended my ego. Now, the reason I'm going to explain this to you is it's more we play tennis with the ego. We play games basically. So volleyball, tennis, netball, whatever you want to think of. We play games with the ego. You, me, all of us, we have our ego space, okay? And for every single one of us, we get into dramas with the ego. Now, the real solution to this, and I want to explain it to you, is fear is actually thinking of the future. So Laura mentioned fear and the ego bringing in fear. No, you're also playing that game with the ego, and I'll explain to you why. The reason you're playing that game with the ego is because when you step into fear, guess what you're doing, my lovelies? You're thinking of the future. You are thinking of what's going to happen next. If you're not in a neutral space, which is the now, we all want to read out Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. The power of now is your friend. It's your only friend. It's always here. Be in this moment, be in this moment, be in this moment. I can't control the next moment. I can only control this moment, here, right now. Right now, for example, for myself, there's no point me thinking of what's going to happen even an hour from now because I am doing this podcast with Lauren. I'm here in this moment, and that's where we need to be. Now, there's two ways the ego can play with you, and you play with the ego. The first one, obviously, was fear. You're going into the future. You're looking at what's going to happen. And people who control, sorry, Lauren, and myself a little bit, have a lot of this going on, right? However, if you start thinking about the past, my darlings, that's ego too, because it takes you into anxiety. Why? Because you've experienced it before. Well, I know this is going to happen. Why do you know it's going to happen? Because it happened to me when I was 6. You were 6. Guess what? 6-year-old you could not deal with it. So I'm going to give you a little story. It's my story, and it will help you, I think. If ego's playing with you and you're playing with ego, because remember, ego doesn't play alone. You play with ego. If ego comes up and you go, oh, but it was my ego. No, it was you as well. Ego is like a relationship, okay? If you and your boyfriend or girlfriend are arguing or whatever, you can't blame them alone. Because guess who's also in the mix? You are,
Yeah.
right? Same with
Yeah.
ego. You are in the mix with, you have a relationship with that ego. And depending, some people have stronger relationships with their ego than others, okay? Some people are more easily swayed by their ego. What I would say to you is, and this is how I've dealt with it over the years, when it comes up, you can say, it's okay, but befriend it. You treat ego with love and you say to ego, look, I get it. I get that you're trying to protect me
Yes.
from all the things that were bad when we were small. I get that, because ego is just a protection mechanism anyway, and all it's trying to do is it's keeping you small. Why? Because that's what you did when you were 5 and 6. Why did you do it? Because if you said something, you might get told off. If you did something, you might get told off. So what you say is, actually, I've got this in hand, but you need to give ego a task. Do not say to ego, don't help me with this, and I don't want you in my space, blah, 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 blah. Because then poor ego is going to go, oh, then ego is going to start crying. And then you've got a real big problem because it will get louder and you will be playing a big game of tennis then. And it won't be a good one because you won't be winning. But so literally what you do is you say to ego, can you help me with this? And ego can play quite hard if you give it a task. And it will start playing that task and it won't even realize that you've deflected it to something completely different. And then
Wow.
it might come up again. But what happens is over time, if you keep repeating this exercise, your ego space and you will have a better relationship. Look, don't get me wrong, it will never go because it's a relationship. And in relationships, people get good, they have off days, they have good days, they have bad days, they have fantastic days, they have super days. But that's a relationship and that's how it works. And now you think of it now as a relationship, you'll understand it better. And I think that's a better way to reframe it.
I love it. I think that's beautiful. And also, when I was talking about the ego shielding the soul from the higher self, I also look at it as, for me, when I heard that and I registered with that, it allowed me to recognize my power in that moment, because we can allow the ego to overshadow a lot of things. I really like how you're talking about giving it a new task. I think that's really important. I use sometimes anxiety as an opportunity to remind myself to be in the here and now moment. Like, oh, I'm feeling anxiety. Okay, so I can notice that I'm actually alive and I'm feeling my emotions because that anxiety is strong, right? And starting to notice the things around us. But I really like how you're talking about giving it something else to do, because there is definitely a gift in allowing it to, or there's a gift in it telling us that we're not in alignment right now, or we're not operating at a higher level, right? If we
Yeah.
are feeling worrisome. I love Eckhart Tolle when he says, what problem do I have in this moment? And I think that is such a strong statement, because, like you said, the ego is constantly past, future, past, future. But when we remember, what problem do I actually have in this moment? None. The other thing too is, when I am having anxiety, or the ego is coming up for me, I often look at it as almost my inner child needing some attention and needing to be nurtured, and being like, it's okay, we're safe. I'll protect you. I've got your back. When you're giving the ego another task or something to do, what's an example of that? Do you say, hey, go look for some hearts for me, or hey, let's find a great place for me to have a nap? Like, what kind of things do you ask it to do?
Yeah, just before I say that, I want to say about the ego shrouding the higher self. It would because you were a child, so you weren't developed enough to recognize your higher self because you're being trained by the outside societal world. So yes,
Yeah.
that would be a good summation of it actually. But yeah, I did want to say about that. So yeah, to
Mm.
give your ego a task, it's going to be quite personal to you really, because obviously we're all different. And if I said to my ego, go off and, play with this bell or whatever, you might not want to do something as ridiculous as that, but it just depends on the relationship you've got with your ego at the point. So
Mm.
normally I would say something like, when I started out, to go back into the back into the beyond, I remember when it first came up, and I remember saying to my ego, I recognize that you're trying to protect me. And I even found what the issue was. I remembered as a child, I'd got upset about a little thing, and it wasn't even that important. But
Mm.
because what happens, you take that small thing and you grow it into a much bigger issue as you get older. And the thing is, the
Yeah.
more decades you have on your life, the bigger that will be. So then ego comes in trying to protect it. And if you can find that, so I would say you need to journal first. You personally need to journal first to ask yourself, what's coming up for me? What am I feeling in this moment? Then you talk to ego and you say, actually, do you know what? I'm actually really good with this and I want to do this. How can you protect me while I do it? What can you do for me in this instance? You need to have a conversation with that part of yourself. And it may be resistant initially, but together you will find a space where you can work together. But often you'll get, like, when my ego came up and it went, yes, but I'm just trying to help. And honestly, those words came up and up and up. Yes, but I'm just trying to help. And if you don't do it, you'll feel better. And I said, yes, I know, but I have to do it. So what can I do if I have to do it? Well, can I sit in the sidelines and watch to make sure you're okay? It went. That's what I got from it. That's what I
Mm.
got. Now, if you're less sort of psychic and perceptive than me, and that's going to be something harder for you, then instead what you say is you tell ego, actually, look, I'm going to do it, but can you have my back? Do you know what? Ego loves to help you. It loves to help you. Imagine you saying to ego, you can assist me. It goes, really? You're not ignoring me anymore? Because believe me, your ego is the parts of you that you've ignored
That's so good.
over
And
your
even
life.
just saying,
It's the
ah,
little parts of you.
you can help me, to maybe speak my truth in this situation because I'm going to move forward with it anyway. I'm going to be brave. You can help me to be brave. One of the things that I do, because I'm clairvoyant like you are, and I learned this technique from Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul, is I sometimes, so if I've got all this conversation going, it's like, girl, da, 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 like my ego's just talking away. And also for a listener at home, when Hem is talking about that, and when I'm talking about the ego, it's kind of almost in our imagination, like another part of us. It's almost like another person, but it's another part of us. Because I think sometimes, Hem, as you would imagine, it could be a little bit confusing trying to figure that out. But anyway, what I do is I imagine myself beside myself. So almost like the ego version of me. And I can see myself talking and talking and talking. And I go, Lauren, it's okay. I've got this. Go to sleep. And then I my ego or I naturally go, oh, but it's like, no, girl, it's cool. I've got this. Go to sleep. And then she goes, oh, okay. And she just kind of goes like that in meditation. And that for me is like a loving way of just going, it's okay. I've got this. I'm acknowledging you, but I'm also saying I can take it from here. But I really love the suggestions that you're doing about let's do this together as a team. I find
I
that,
love go to sleep.
yeah,
I love go to sleep.
yes, I've got to go to sleep.
Cheeky.
It's really fabulous because then I can see myself going, yeah, but it's like, no, I've got this, go to sleep. Oh, okay. And you just kind of like slowly go ahead and do that. The other thing too, and I'd like to know whether or not this resonates with you, it's something that I learned recently because I got a soul realignment session. It was really powerful from my friend Candace Planch. And one of the things that that she has you do is read a prayer for 21 days. And essentially, it's starting to acknowledge the old patterns that we have. Because, like you were talking about with the ego, when we have a story or something that happens as a child, even if it's like a super small thing, it starts to add on to that story and build it up. And then when we kind of dissect it, like you were saying through journaling, you go, oh, really? It was like not that big of a deal. But one of the things that I've started to realize is I go, I can see that I'm wanting to relay an old habit or an old pattern. So I'll go, oh, I am no longer running the pattern of fear, or I'm no longer running the habit of doubt or self-doubt. And I choose to let that go. And it's almost like letting the ego know, hey, we actually already dealt with that. It's cool. I'm choosing to let that go now. So we don't have to continue to bring that up. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that is actually really, really true. And it's funny because as
Mhm.
you were saying it, I thought about that whole challenge again and challenging things. And what it is there be periods like in your life, right, where you had, and we're talking about when you were little and you dealt with different challenges different ways. And
Hmm.
all this is, right? Okay, like what you were saying, all this is that you are in a school. Earth is a school, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what Lauren said, I've already dealt with that. The Earth is a school. And unfortunately, the angels are laughing while they're saying this. This is not me. This is them. They're literally coming through. They're going, guys, this is a school. happens at school. They retest you,
They
don't they?
retest. Yeah.
They retest you. They check you know your knowledge. They will check you know your knowledge. So the thing is, you will have got that. So ego might bring it back up. But if you felt a little crunky or a little bit triggered, you've not quite finished that lesson. That's all it
Ah,
is. But you could be so close to finishing a lesson. And also, right, think about how it is, right? Say, for example, you're training to be a doctor and you're doing the theory part, and then but you're going to be a surgeon, right? You're going right up there, right? You're gonna go to bodies. Guys, you're not just going to know how to do that, are you? Unless you've done some cadavers, that kind of thing. Sorry, those of you who are squeamish. I'm a little bit, so I can't believe I said that. So, but you're going to have to do that practice. You can't just know it. And this is it. This is like these challenges that you get set. Think about it. You are not going to build Rome in a day. You're not going to heal you're not going to become a doctor in a day, are you?
yes.
Not, you're not.
Yes.
And these are the challenges that we've got on this earth. So maybe your challenge is to learn to be able to take really, really tough, strong pushes in, all the things that overwhelm you. Maybe your challenge is to get to a point where they don't overwhelm you anymore. Think how big that is. Think how big that is if, say, from a child, water was a fear for you and you didn't want to go in water. And funnily enough, Lauren and I were talking about cairns earlier. And many, many years ago, when I was in Australia, I was at the Great Barrier Reef, and I hate water. So this is why I'm bringing this up to you. And I don't go in it, and I didn't want to swim. My friend taught me eventually because at school I was useless because I wouldn't go in it. But think of the challenge that was for me. I had to grow through it. And I was quite old by the time we were in Australia. And eventually I said, okay, I'll just go. I'll do the snorkel. I'll go in the water. I'll go in the Great Barrier Reef. And it completely healed me
Mm.
because I had got to the point in my lesson where I was able to complete the module. It is
Ah,
that
so
simple,
good.
guys. You are
So
in
good.
modules. Yeah.
That is so good. And you know what's really exciting about that too is when you do complete the module, you don't get tested again because there is such a thing as being cleared of certain things, you know? And I think sometimes though, we can feel like we've already cleared it. And like you said, maybe there's like a couple of remnants of something that we still need to kind of sort out and go through. One of the things that I think we should talk about now is a bit about the concept of that we don't have to do life alone. And it's
Oh.
funny because I did a talk a little while ago for a group of women, and I was talking about mindset and manifestation. And one of the tips that I had in there was asking for help and how we don't need to do life alone. And how sometimes what we do is we are doing everything on our own. And a lot of people I think want to be the martyr and they want to take it all on and they're not even doing it all well and they keep piling it on. And I've got this vision of like this woman walking with a cane with like a heavy backpack and it's just like laden down with all her burdens. And I think one of the things that we need to constantly remember is that we have access to the angels and they may not be on tap like they are for you with everyone where you could just have a conversation with the angels and him all at the same time, which is always exciting, or with my guides who continuously drop stuff in. But the fact is that we're not alone even if we feel that we are. And so one of the things that happened to me last month was that I was really feeling triggered and challenged by my career and not really feeling super clear on where I want to go next. And I felt that I was getting a lot of misinformation, not misinformation, sorry, conflicting information that was starting to cause some confusion within myself, which I'm not used to because I'm normally very clear. And so I started putting it out there to the universe that I was like, I need some help. I need some support. And I was talking to my angels because I talk to them all the time. But I said, I really need some help. Okay. And then the following day, and that's when I was really intentional and really putting it out there to the universe that I was like, I need you to show up for me very clearly. And then the next day in my inbox, Hems, my beautiful angel connector sister, has sent me a message and gone, "Hey girl, had a dream about you. What's going on?" And I'm like, whoa. Hem, take it away.
It was really funny actually. So Lauren and I ended up chatting. We were meant to be recording a podcast, but we ended up chatting because of this. So it was really weird. I hadn't thought of Lauren in years. Lauren and I literally have probably not seen hadn't seen each other for a couple of years because I've been through some health stuff. Lauren had been going through
Yeah.
her bits, and I went to sleep one of the nights, and Lauren was just featured so much in my dream, and I was like, why is Lauren Grace here? But she was pretty much there. And I got up and I said to the angels, I take it you want me to contact Lauren? And they were like, yeah. And I don't think I did it that day. I think I just left
Mm.
it. And the next day they said to me when I got up, she was the first thing on my mind again. And I was like, what are you telling me? And they said, please just message Lauren. And I did. And it was interesting because Lauren said she'd literally just asked. So the angels had
Yeah.
literally put us into space with each other. And
Yeah.
this is beautiful because where Lauren says this to you, it's you can just ask for help and they will send you it. The I suppose the thing the angels are saying, and it's funny, and they said Lauren and I, it was a different situation. It was a field key moment. Now, I want to explain what these things are to you before I go on, right? There's two
Right.
types of moments. There's a field key moment and there's an open key moment. And they're not mine. I got them from somewhere when I was reading through my reams of reading in my life, right? And a field key moment means it has to happen because there was no way, unless I didn't message Lauren,
Yeah.
that she wasn't going to get that. Because I do what I do, and they know I'm so on it. They knew I
Yeah.
would message her. They knew that without a doubt. They're laughing because they're going, "Yes, actually, we did. We knew you'd do it." But the thing is, so that's a field key moment, which meant there was no way it wasn't going to happen. I was going to message her. We were going to end up doing this podcast. It was always going to happen.
Yeah.
However, an open key moment's a bit different because it means that you can change it. You don't have to do the thing. So I want to elaborate on a little bit more. So for example, a field key moment would be something like I was born with a hole in my heart. So there was no chance I could not have an operation. I couldn't do anything about that. It had to happen, right?
Yeah.
A field key moment is going to school because you have to do it, right? Whereas an open key moment is where suddenly you've got months and months with nothing organized and nothing happening. And you're being tested in those moments to literally be in space and be connected into angels, be connected into source, be connected into your higher helpers. Now, the angels are telling me to remind you, you don't have to just lean into them, you know. You know, when you came to this earth, you did not come alone. Oh my God, they're telling me as well as you guys here. You did not come alone. You have a soul family that's all around you. Lauren and I must be soul family because I had the dream. I was asked to bring something to her that she needed in that moment. Guess what,
Yes.
guys? You have them too. We all have soul families. Now, here's one of the little questions that I asked. Why are my soul family so far away? So Lauren's over in miles away from me in a different time zone completely, right?
Yeah.
Other friends of mine are miles away as well. And some of them are galactically out of my space because obviously I talk to spirit and angels. That's just how you planned it if it's like that for you. But for some of you, you'll have them right next door. They'll be right there. Your soul family are the ones you gel with so well that when you're with them, you can ask them anything, you can talk about anything, they will help you with anything, they'll do anything for you. I mean, I've got a friend, he's actually my boyfriend's mate, right? And me and him, I know if I need anything, he would help me. He's wonderful. And I have
Yeah.
that. You all have that, even if it's just one person. And if you don't have that one person, remember your soul family are out there and they're looking for you too.
Oh, that's
There you
so
go.
good. They're
Yes.
looking for you
So do
too.
reach.
I love that so much. And you know what? I've put out the intention before where I'm like, bring me my sisters, bring them to me. I'm ready. Like, how, connect them to me. And it's a lot about that intention and that free will. And then I'm hearing my guides are saying, yes, but other people also need to catch up. So that's the other part of it too, isn't it? That they also,
Yeah.
that other people have free will and other souls have free will. And I remember I was talking to a friend many years ago and we hadn't spoken in a period of time. And when we reconnected, she was like, "Oh wow, we're on the same level, like the same vibration again." And I thought
Oh,
that was such a cool way of looking at it. At that sometimes we do kind of go off on tangents where we have to find our own way, and then we come back with the people that are on the similar vibration to us. And sometimes we fall away and we come back, and that's the way it is. But I think that, like you said, even remembering that, sometimes our soul family or even angels, people that we're connecting to, they don't even have to have the hugest role in our life. Could literally be somebody that you engage with at the coffee shop every day, and you have a nice word with each other, and you have that familiarity, and that's how you're showing up for each other. So I think it's also looking for those magical moments in even our everyday occurrences. And I also want to say one thing too before we continue, because I think it was really important and you talked about it, but I want to bring it up again, which is that the angels knew that you were going to act and message me. But what I heard you say as well was that because Hem also has free will and has a life and other things she may want to do, if you didn't message me, that I would have got a message in another way because they wouldn't have dropped the ball, so to speak.
No, 100%. There's 100% in that, because there's not only me. Okay,
Yeah.
so for example, I was clearly Lauren's first port of call. I was going to be the first one. But okay, by hook or crook, you will have the experience, no matter what it is. By hook or crook, you will have it. You can't cheat what is destined. This is what I was talking about, the key moments. So you will have someone come in, and it may not have been me. It may have been, like I say, like Lauren was just saying, it would be someone else. It actually could have been the bank clerk that did it.
Yeah.
They could have just said something to Lauren that made her click. It just
Yeah.
turned out to be an hour-long conversation instead, or nearly a 2-hour-long conversation between me and Lauren.
Yeah.
But it happens in many different ways. But the angels said another thing they wanted to say as well, but they're really trying to get involved today. They're saying that, remember that when you meet your soul family, they can be 10 steps behind you or 10 steps ahead of you. And we have to watch out for ego trying to tell us that that 10 step behind you person isn't worthy of your speaking to, or they're not in your resonance frequency, because they actually are, because 10 and 10, they're not a lot either way, okay? And the people at
Yes.
the front, this is kind of a message to you guys as well, to remember that you will have to help people that are coming up the ladder. You will have to put your hand down and bring them up. But yes, what Lauren says is absolutely true. It's 100%. There will always be a way that you're given the tools that you need to move yourself forward. The only thing the angels are saying is they do want to bring this up because they feel it's important that it's said. Be aware of your own resistance, though, sometimes to the messengers as well, because often, it could be like, say you get on the, I don't know, you get on the train, and the conductor says something and it actually is the information you needed, but you could be just like, oh, I don't even know that guy.
Yeah.
It obviously isn't going to be that. So you see,
Yeah.
be careful of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what that is too, it's opening yourself up to help, but not controlling the way help comes in, is what you're saying. And obviously, you need to have a level of discernment. That's, a no-brainer. But at the same time, we have to be able to receive that help. Where do you think people get in their way of asking for help, but then not receiving it? Because we know people self-sabotage. We know that people sometimes will see, maybe the conductor will say, hey, if you want to go like ready for a really amazing miracle, get off at the next stop. And then the person's like, nah, I'm good. If you want to get off on the golden path and win the lottery, get off here. Nah, I'm okay. I'll wait. It's that story. It's a story of like the person they're like, I don't know, they got submarined or they're in the ocean. Okay, I'm making this up, but I know there's like a real story. They're in the ocean and they're floating around and they're like praying to God to help them. And then God sends a boat. And this guy's like, oh, here, like, I'll take you to shore. And then the person's like, no, it's okay. I've called in God.
I'm waiting
Oh,
for God.
okay. And then they go away, right? And then they bring in the army, and then the army's like, no, it's cool. I've called God, so he's on it, or
I'm
like,
waiting
the
for
vine's
God,
on it,
yeah.
whatever. And then it goes on and on and on. And then the person drowns. And then they're up in heaven and they say to God, they're like, what's going on? I asked for help and you didn't show up. And they're like, but I sent you a boat and the army and a helicopter and a talking whale, and like, you didn't
Talking
listen.
whale.
Well, that'd be cool.
Oh, Lord, you're brilliant. it was different. Do you know that is my favorite little thing that I tell people? I tell people that one as well.
Yeah,
I
so I'm
tell
sure
that
you tell it
story.
better than me, and
I
there's no talking whale in
I
your
always
story.
go
But
to
I mean,
everyone, you're
yeah.
so what happens is, and to be honest, it's exactly what you said anyway. We are so resistant. Humans can be so resistant. And a lot of it is, and I'll tell you what it is. It's just like this guy that Lauren was talking about. It isn't real, obviously. This is just a story. But
Okay.
you have a perception in your mind of how that help will look. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is a real kicker, guys. No, stop that. Stop it. I'm saying, this is not me. This is the angels. They're coming in big and strong. And they go, no, enough of that. You
Yeah.
cannot decide for God how what he brings you or she brings you is going to look. You cannot do that. There are three types of business. Katie Byron, sorry, talks about this.
No,
God's
Byron
business,
Katie. I was just
your
listening to
business,
her
and my
today.
business. You stay out of my business because that's my business, right?
Yeah.
Byron Katie.
Yeah.
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 And you've got your lane. Lauren's got her lane, so I stay out of her business unless she asks me for advice or help, and then I help her. And God's
Yeah.
business, get way out of it. Why?
Yeah.
Because if you step into God's business, how can God show you the way? You see, you're standing there going, yes, but I want it like this. I want it like this. Well, you know what? Maybe God's going to send you something bigger. But you know what happens when you demand and you go on and you want it a particular way? Guess what? It doesn't come. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
come. Sorry, guys, it really doesn't. I have to be honest because it's what they're saying to me. They're saying, how can they bring you what you want if all you're doing is going, right, here you go. But like the helicopter and the whale, the singing whale, all these things, it's bringing you glorious stuff, and you're going,
Yeah.
nah, don't want it. And God's standing there going, okay, my child, I love you. I'll bring you more, and then
Yeah.
more, and more. And eventually, what happens is you close off from God. You close off from the angels. You close off from everyone. Why? Because you say they're not helping me. They're not
Mm-hmm.
assisting me. I've
Mm-hmm.
been left here on my own. They're not assisting me. In fact, I'm just going to
Yeah.
plug myself, but I don't normally do this like this, but it's because
Plug.
it will help
Plug
you.
away.
I have been doing these channeled readings, messages on my YouTube channel. And it might be worth you watching them because the angels are talking a lot about this sort of stuff, about how we step in the way, how we don't allow space, how we question, we judge, we question, we manipulate, we coerce, we control. Humans have become very, very familiar with these kind of behaviors. Then obviously you're going to stand in your way, aren't you? I stand in my way sometimes, and then I have to
Yeah.
stop and say, okay, I forget it. That is the best way, right? If you want something and it's getting too much and ruminations kicking in right here in like inside your brain, say, okay, I forget it. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not bothered about it. I'll leave it. Guess what that does? It gives their brains back to God, and God
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
woohoo, and
I can
brings
almost
it to
hear
you.
them
So I have a
going,
little,
all right, everyone, move in. It's like the team.
yeah.
She's out
And
of
I
the
have a
way.
little
Move in.
example of this. I spoke to Lauren, and I was going to get a car, and I'd had a bit of a block around getting this car, right? And the day I saw Lauren was the day I was going to test drive the car, right? And it was really, really weird because I saw, after speaking to Lauren, because we chatted and we'd gone into space and everything, and after that, I said to Lauren, I'm feeling a bit nervous because I haven't driven in 4 years. And I've got to test drive this car and yada, yada, yada. And I went into space and I did what I do, which is how I connect to my angels, do these things. And they showed me the messages around my car. Now, the truth is, I had been standing in my way of receiving that for a while. Why? Because I was putting out the story of my fears rather than the story of how exciting it would be once I got my car. And it is interesting
good.
because and this is how you don't get things. And I did get this thing. I'll talk more about this. So I did end up getting the car. It happened. And why did it happen? Because suddenly I saw the gift. I saw the gift in the moment. It was funny because Lauren said, and I'm going to say it on here because it was funny because Lauren said, oh, I see you in a red car. But I'd had a dream about a red car too. And I said, oh, I dreamt about a red car. And at that point, after getting off the call with Lauren, I went, red car, or this other car was blue. And the angel said, no, remember the car in the dream broke down and it was red. And then they said, you need cool blue. And that, my darlings, is how it happens because we I've been so, how did I change my resistance? I changed my resistance by being open to help. That was what happened to me for that specific scenario. Sometimes we're not open to the thing that will bring us what we need. So, for example, my mum was helping me a little bit, and I really didn't want her to because I thought, well, I'm a grown up, I can do it myself. Who needs
Yeah.
anyone's help anyway? Just like the God story, right? But it turned out that maybe that was for her, something she also needed to do, rather than me standing on ceremony and going, well, I don't need your help, I can do it myself. And God's going, I'm sending you everyone to help you. And you're going,
Yes.
I don't need those things. Yeah, see what I
Yes.
mean? So yeah, you can
Yes.
do it. You can do it.
That's so funny. And so why do you think I saw the red car? Was it a misinterpretation, or do you think it was asking you to look at your resistance where you were like red car, blue car? Do you think that sometimes that's what happens is we get these messages and we're like, okay, I'm forcing myself to really look into this now?
And the reason you said about the red car was actually to remind me of the dream where I dreamt of the red car, which broke down and didn't look
Ah,
like it could go anywhere. So the thing was, I didn't realize that. And actually, the first car I saw right at the beginning was a red car. So it's interesting. So yeah, so it's funny how it works, but you really need to be. I know the angels are going to say this, and they're saying to me to say they understand that this is going to sound wishy-washy, but they're going to say it anyway. You need to take yourself out of the path of resistance because most of us are in the path of resistance. So I'm saying, angels,
yeah.
how do we move out of the path of resistance then?
Yes.
So the angels are saying, if you want to move out of the path of resistance, you need to be able to let go of the need of it. So say you want to become a dancer, for example, but you keep applying for, you've done all your training and everything, but you've applied to a school, a bigger school, and you want to get in. But every time you apply, you keep getting rejected. What in you doesn't feel worthy of that? It's that then you need to work on. It's things in you first. Resistance normally comes from feeling unworthy, self-esteem, low self-worth, these kind of things, right? And they come through and then they create resistance around them. So for me, maybe, for example, it was because I hadn't driven in years because I'd had an accident. And so I was maybe trying to protect myself from the experience, but it had to happen anyway.
Yes.
And that's the
Yes.
thing. The angels are saying that's the kicker. The angels are funny. They're showing me a football being kicked, and they're
Love it.
saying that that's the movement. The movement is sometimes the thing you need might be uncomfortable for you first, and
Mm.
then the joy comes, right?
That's so good. That's so good. And even when you were talking about the need, I mean, I I have this fabulous book. It's over there. It's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money, and it's so good. And one of the things the author talks about is removing from our vocabulary need and want, because need and want create this kind of like energy of desperation in a way. And I think what you said there really bears repeating because it's so important. It's almost as though when you can have the thing or not, it doesn't matter either way. That's when you're not so focused on the outcome and the when and the how, and you allow source to come in and do their thing. I want to share a little story with you because I think you'll find it funny. And I really resonated with it felt appropriate a little bit like a little while ago, but I'll still say it now. So, you know, I remember the house that I'm in now is an amazing house, and my partner found it. We went, we looked at it, and we left. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's the one. Like, it didn't have the feeling like the last house we bought, you know. And so I'm going through all the amazing things about the house, and then I said, actually, let me tell you the real the real issue is that in my meditations and in my visions, this isn't the house that we're in. Like the house that we're in, I'll be when I'm older, has a pool, and there's like all these things. And then, he just gently reminded me, he goes, yeah, but we don't have to start at that house. We could start at this house and then we can move into that house after, right? And I went, oh, right. That's also true. Yes, we can do that. And so I think that's also like really important to remember because I love where we are. Like I literally live in paradise, is that sometimes what the angels are also doing and our spirit teams are doing, or our higher self, like I was talking about the golden nuggets, they're actually leading us along the way. But guess what? I buy this house, we make a bunch of equity to get the next thing. So that's the other part of it, is sometimes we're not going to go from here to there. We have to go along the journey and experience other cool things while we get there. But it's so funny how we often go, no, I'm not going to get this thing because I want that house, which is on its way. And this is part of the way we're going to get it. Anyway, I just think it's so funny.
I love that. I love that. It's funny as well because it's like we're in a race. We think we're in a race.
Yeah.
And the angels reminded me while Lauren was talking about but this isn't the house in my meditation. They said, remember that this is a very small, right? Like I say, if you don't believe in past lives or reincarnation, then you just don't just drop this, just ignore this. But if you do, then just listen in. So, for example, this is such a small fraction of your soul's existence. This
Yeah.
life, it feels really big to you. Oh, I might live till I'm 100 or 90 or 80 or whatever. That's a
Yeah,
lot
but
of years. It's nothing. I'm telling you, the angels are literally saying, they're literally shaking their heads going, it's nothing. It's nothing. They're telling me
yeah.
that in some spaces of being, our year is a day. So, think about that, understand the concepts. And I know it's
Yes.
hard to, but you've got to realize that there's so much more than this. And the other thing is, if you, like Lauren was talking about all this, and I was then thinking about money, and I was thinking, all these people with money, they've got everything, they don't have to concern themselves with this stuff. Well, they
Mm.
didn't come to learn the lessons we came to learn. They're not in that part of the curriculum. They didn't choose those modules. They chose the modules of having loads of money and realizing it's just as rubbish having as much money as not having the money, because
Yes.
challenges don't ignore you just because you're rich, guys. Challenges don't ignore you. I mean, you could look at royalty. They don't have no problems. They have them too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having money doesn't make you better than anyone either. I think that the angels have really been trying to really throw this out recently, that a lot of us feel less worthy because we don't have the financial, so that some of these billionaires and have, and all this, it's nonsensical. It doesn't matter where you are on this wheel, right? The spokes, we're all the spokes in the wheel. Even the billionaires are in there, the royalties are in there, they're all in there. You're no different. All the spokes are the same spoke, and I
Yeah.
think the angels keep telling me to say to everyone to remember you are loved as much as one another. And all this hierarchical structure that we've created is it's human doing. It could be human under. Humans have created this. It doesn't make you less worthy. And they really want you to remember that. They want you to remember
Mm.
that on your journey to getting things, you're in your story. Let your movie
Yes.
be your movie. Love it. Enjoy it. Do what Lauren's done,
Yes.
and get the place that the stepping stone
Yes.
to the next place.
Yes.
I mean,
Because it
guys,
brings so much joy while you're doing it.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, my situation at the moment is so up and down. And if I were to be how many people could be in my situation, I would be doing nothing. So, take that. I've got a really, I mean, it's difficult, my situation. I don't have any real space as such. I'm back and forth, and my life is all over the place, and I struggle with it, but I'm so open to it because it's obviously something I asked to learn or
Mm.
experience. That's another thing I want to say. The angels are saying it's a big thing. You may have asked to experience this. So enjoy it, even if it seems yucky. Because the thing is,
Yeah.
when we conceptualize of this and create our blueprints, we're in beautiful high vibration. We don't have pain. We don't have feelings. We don't feel any of this, you
Yeah.
know, the bondage and the sort of prison of the body. We don't
Yeah.
feel it. Then we come here and we try and do these things and go, why did I give myself such a big
Yeah.
curriculum? Oh no.
Yeah.
Why didn't I choose an easier one? And
Yeah.
that's the story, my lovelies. That's the story.
That's so
Yeah.
good. I interviewed Rob Schwartz a couple years ago, and
Mhm.
he wrote a few books, and one of them is called Your Soul's Gift, and he talks all about the pre-birth planning and all of these things. And he talks about in that book different chapters, including pets and family relationships, disability, animals, like all these sort of things, relationships that we have. And he talks about the pre-birth plan that these souls have. So he features different people in each chapter. And when I read that book, it allowed me to kind of go, ah, right. Everyone is on their own soul's journey, their own soul's path. And who am I to say what's right for that person or not, or to feel bad for that person or not? It goes back to how there's no right and wrong, there just is. And who's to say what's right or wrong anyway? There's that story of, the man and his son helps him on the farm and his son breaks his leg and then he's in the hospital and they're like, oh no, isn't it bad that your son broke his leg and he can't help you on the farm? And he goes, oh, maybe. And then the army comes to town and they're recruiting all of the young men in the town, and his son doesn't go to the war because he's got a broken leg. And they're like, oh, wow, aren't you lucky your son didn't get recruited for the war? Well, maybe. And then he's visiting his son in the hospital and his house gets like swept away from a wave. And they're like, oh no, isn't it sad that, right? And it goes on and on and on. And the whole idea is that who's to say what our souls are meant to experience? And I feel like even we don't always know, right? We can go, oh, obviously somehow I signed up for this, but I don't really know what that's about or why I chose that. But I guess it'll sort itself out in due course, as long as I'm not so tied to the story or the outcome. Yeah.
There is so much truth to that. And it's really interesting because it really brought to mind something that happened with me. So with my ex and we had everything. I had everything. I had the house, the car, everything. I didn't have the kids, but I had everything else. We had the money, had it all, right? And when we split up and everything, I lost everything. I lost everything. And I mean it, I lost everything, including the car, right? And that happened right near the last knockings. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're taking everything away from me. And God said, and the angels said, and I feel that obviously with the angels will help me with that to understand what God's bringing me. This is what you asked to experience. You asked to start again from your own space, in your own way, with your own independence. So I've had to pick myself up, and I'm still doing it. I'm still picking myself up pretty much off the floor, which is where I ended up, because it was exhausting. It was tiring. Look, guys, you will experience struggles in life, but the angels are saying they will support you. I was really lucky, and obviously because of what I do, I had two very huge angels come into me and help me to remove all the pain. I mean, it didn't remove it because obviously we're human and we're going to go back to it as soon as we can, right? But these two angels, I wrote a book with them, which is hopefully going to come out soon because they're making me talk about it, which I've been really resisting putting out, but I feel that they're really pushing me now to get this book out. See, resistance, even I have that. This is something I really want to open up to you guys. I do all this work. I have such a deep connection with angels, and even I resist things, right? But you're here to learn to be the best version of yourself. So for me, maybe losing all that stuff and everything I had, I could go out and buy whatever I wanted, I had the life where if I wanted a new pair of shoes, I could just get them. If we wanted a car, we could just go buy it. We could buy new furniture. We had the money to do it. And now I don't even have two pennies to rub together. It's like you couldn't go more from one extreme to the other. But you know what? If we have this happen to us, that's God's way of saying, I love you so much. I know that sounds so rubbish, but that is what I learned. That is the biggest love, when they give you the biggest tests and you get through them and you pass with honors. So you can do this. You can do this. Yeah.
And again, who's to say, right? What's good or bad? I don't believe that there is. There just is, we don't have to add that label on anything. And I believe that, it's interesting to follow your story, and we'll see where it goes over the years. Of course, I mean, as friends, we will. But also it's like, yeah, who's to say where it's meant to go, and the lessons that we learn, the resilience that we learn, the opportunities that come from, understanding how to, like, working hard and maybe even valuing money in a different way. So
yeah, it is interesting. There's a guy who, I can't remember his name. It's a book I read, and he did have everything, and he gave it all up and went and got someplace in some remote area. and just decided to live really simply with no tech, no anything. So I guess, I don't know, what's one person's happy is not another person's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so beautiful. Well, we're at the end of our time together. Is there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't ask you about? How can people get a hold of you? I'll put a link, of course, to your channeled angel messages as well on YouTube. Did the angels have any messages that they wanted to impart, and anything else that you wanted to say, my sister?
Any messages, angels, before we go? So they want to say that for all of this life, for everything that you're doing, accept that they've never left you and they will never leave you. You're always supported in all ways. The other thing they're telling me to say to you as well is they're saying, guys, wake up each morning and say, I am in a good space. Just tell yourself that every morning. And when you go to sleep at night, if there's anything that's worrying you and you can't handle, give it to God, give it to the angels. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. But whatever you believe in, give it to that. And say, can you take it from me tonight and help to heal it? And keep asking them that every night until you start to feel it's lessening for you. So yes. And guys, you can find me at www.selfloveselfcaresystem.com. That's my website. I also have a few Facebook pages, although I'm going to amalgamate them into one soon, but it's the Self-Love Self-Care Angel System page that you can find on Facebook. And what else do I have? I don't have many handles, actually. I just have my YouTube, which is also Self-Love Self-Care System. That's it. That is me with social media.
And we'll look forward to hearing more about your book as well. And one thing I do want to say is just on that beautiful message that you're leaving us with is two affirmations that I really think are really powerful. Number one, I heard this recently. Isn't it wonderful? And that's all you say. And it's like, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful?
Oh, I love.
And I love that because we're not saying what's wonderful, but we all know that when we go, isn't it wonderful? That there's like this, electricity and this like feeling of accomplishment, success, joy, love, peace, whatever it is. And so I love the open-endedness of that. Isn't it wonderful? And then the other thing that I wanted to share is this one I've shared before, which is I cast over my burdens to the Christ light within and I go free. And I just think that is so powerful. And you could change it and say, I cast over my burdens to the divine and I go free. I cast over my burdens to the Christ light and I go free. I personally like to say the Christ light within because it helps me to remember that I'm a powerful co-creator with source energy and that I can transmute energy as well. So I wanted to also just mention that to our listeners.
They're gorgeous. Thank
Thank
you
you, my
so much for having
sister.
me.
Look forward to our next chat.
Okay.